Well, there's no time for details because the game has already started. So right away, we're going to go into TenShi against Naiman here. VP Naiman, Virtus Pro, a great esports organization.
Absolutely.
And he has Stars Align in hand and Celemania's favor. So that's already a good start for Red-Green. And this is a mirror. And
well, TenShi's already got 2 Stars Align and a Roseleaf Druid. So both of them have the pieces. Neither one of them has your traditional finishers. TenShi does have Spring the Trap in hand, but that's not usually the sort of thing that you want to jump to this early. You either want an Emissary or a Time of Triumph. So at this point, it seems like it's a race to see who draws one first.
And Duel will get the kill here on that Lycan right away in lane 1 or lane 2. And that's still pretty important because obviously it stops the green hero from being in play next turn, which means for Stars Align you only have one viable lane to do so, or even maybe a Celemania's favor throw into lane 1 from that green lane instead. So I think it's quite an important duel here, but the most important thing will be who draws these payoff cards first, because this match, and let's be honest, it's a coin flip. So,
yeah, I was just about to say, I really like the idea of this Treant going in the first lane for TenShi, because if you do draw one of your finishers, right, a Time of Triumph, this would give you a 2-hero Time of Triumph in that lane. Also, with the melee creeps going mid, and TenShi does see that, right, there's not a lot of contesting you're going to do there, and you don't want to run into the Bristle in the third, so this is really good deployment by TenShi, in my opinion.
And this is going to be probably the most important draw of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's coming in early, but to be honest, it's probably the most important draw of the game as long as someone finds one of those pieces, because both players have access to the full combo. You can Celemania's from the Lycan row into the second row for Naiman, and then Stars Align into your payoff, or you can just do it first lane for TenShi with a double Stars Align. So,
all right, there's
that easy.
There is a Time of Triumph on the side of
Wrap
TenShi.
it up, guys. Close the game. It's over.
Well, if there was a red hero there, then there would have been the opportunity for Naiman to use enough magic, but unfortunately, no red hero, so yeah, it's going to be, in all likelihood, Stars Align, Time of Triumph, and there we see it.
And Naiman will watch from afar. He can't do anything to stop this. There's no Gust in this deck. Gust here would be pretty good.
Yeah, Gust here could be pretty good. Unfortunately, not in the lineup here.
And this is where Lycan is going to be worse than Drow. Obviously, it's very situational. It's the one situation where you would have loved to have Gust instead of the Savage Wolf and the Lycan's great, board control ability. But in this case, TenShi in a dominating position, double Stars Align. It's going to be a bit worse to have double Stars Align instead of the favor Stars Align, because you don't have that ramp for the turn after. It's only this one single instance, but I mean, you can't complain if you get a Time of Triumph on turn 2. This is what wins you games.
Yeah, absolutely not. And now it is worth noting that this means that in all likelihood, TenShi is going to take this first lane, but it's only one lane, right? So the next thing that TenShi is going to need to do is find some mobility for these buffed up heroes to move them around, because the thing with ramp, specifically Stars Align, is once you have used them, like your resources are gone. So you can't just repeat this if you draw another Time of Triumph.
So I'm going to take a bit of a sidetrack here from the game and become Panda Holmes, right?
Okay.
So TenShi, he's Brazilian. And I know Miranda was also Brazilian, so I think the mystery is that TenShi is Miranda. So we haven't been wrong on the panel, we've just been saying different names, but we can't confirm TenShi and Miranda are the same person, just a bit of a name change here instead. So we can go back to the game now.
So is TenShi actually Brazilian or like Mogwai Brazilian?
No, I don't know that much. I know what I can see on the webcam here. That's the limit of my knowledge.
If TenShi wins this, is this a 2 victories for Brazil? Does Mogwai count?
I think that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
Check the rules, but that might not be how it works.
All right, fair enough. So that round is concluding. TenShi does pick up a Town Portal Scroll, so not a Blink Dagger, but still mobility like we talked about, and with the second lane so heavily populated there, I assume that these heroes are going to go to the right for TenShi.
But this is looking like a greedier, or maybe even a more patient, safer double ramp strategy. You have 2 Stars Align in hand, you have 2 card draws. If you draw 2 Time of Triumphs, it's over. You can ramp in lane 2, and you can ramp in lane 3. Whereas, like we said before, TenShi's ramp is much more, it's a burst. It happens one turn, but then it's gone. You have no more ramp. You're at 5 mana again. You're a lowly pleb without the great mana gods favoring you instead. So The draws here in Naiman. Oh, he finds one. That's better than nothing,
Yeah.
so can't complain either.
Naiman's going to be able to close the gap a little bit with a time of triumph of his own. TenShi here, what I really like is at least one Roseleaf Druid in this first lane, because that would open up a Spring the Trap from this first lane if the Bristleback stays. Now, if Bristleback is going to end up being your Town Portal Scroll target, then maybe you don't do it, but I would really like to see TenShi develop a Roseleaf Druid here for future Spring the Traps.
And this is looking bad for TenShi. I mean, you time a Triumph turn 2 and you might just lose the game anyway. That's a feel bad moment. I mean, lane 2 is very much in favor of Naiman. There's no heroes to contest. It's a very wide board. You don't have to use time a Triumph there. You can use a Savage Wolf instead. And then lane 3, you can time a Triumph this turn. There's nothing that TenShi can do about it. He's at 5 mana. He can play what? A Roseleaf Druid. What's that going to do? Nothing. I guess a duel can kill the Bristleback and trade favorably for him. So that's one less hero with time a Triumph, but...
All right, so TenShi takes my advice, develops the Roseleaf, bails out the Treant, so this does open up Spring the Trap on the following turn. But yeah, it's just like you said. Right now, didn't get the early burst, but kind of like I said, right? Time of Triumph helps you win one lane, but you have to win two, and Naiman more conservative with his resources.
Yep. Savage Wolf comes down on the side of Treant, gets that armor buff as well from the branch of the Ironwood, whatever that's called, the ability that gives armor. And now we have the Time of Triumph here without any kind of gust, any kind of, the duel again can stop the Bristleback, but can't, delete one of these two colors, so it can't block the combo, even though initiative is in hand for TenShi.
Yeah, and if TenShi does not take the duel, if TenShi is a little bit greedy and tries to go Roseleaf into the duel, this is...
Well, there's a Stars Alliance still, so now it's just instant. I mean, TenShi knows that this is just stopping one Time in Triumph. And it's still grim for TenShi. I mean, all of a sudden, two of these heroes are going to be very buff and going to be killing, well, both of these heroes, for, like an Anax, and the Cleave kills the Creep as well. So only the Roseleaf Druid survives. 8 damage goes through because of Siege as well. And this game is looking very much in Naiman's favor.
Now, the one thing TenShi has going for himself is he'll get 2 heroes to deploy this round. It's possible that they could go mid, right? If you don't want to run them into the Time of Triumph heroes, they could go mid, and then with the Spring the Trap from that first lane over, you actually could prevent that middle lane from going down. Like you need some arrows to go your way, but you could...
I would have liked to maybe see an Ancient kill. It's a very clear lane 1, already in Ancient potential. You could have spawned maybe 1 Treant in lane 2, in lane 3 rather, Legion in lane 1, you play Spring the Trap in lane 1, and you just go all in. Just forget about everything in life, just try and take the Ancient down. Because let's be honest, you're not going to win this lane. You can try and stall it, but your heroes are going to die. The Cleave comes in on Treant now as well. It's definitely riskier, but could have been an out.
Another thing to note, both players with enough magic in their hands, so if things are looking incredibly favorable at any point here, that would be enough to close it out. So this is going to fall, and it's all going to come down to this third lane.
So another favor in hand for Naiman, can get even more mana into lane 3. You can open up something like a, well, not much really. His cards are all, because Ramp and Stars Alliance, for example, kind of depletes card advantage because you're using a card for nothing other than just that burst, mana potential. It means that all of a sudden you might just run out of cards quite early on. And we see not many options here for Naiman.
Now, there is, Naiman's got a Town Portal Scroll available, right? And more than enough damage here to take this. I have to assume that one of these is coming out, maybe for repositioning. And it is the Legion Commander. And that makes sense because, yep, you can still play the favor to the right. Again, that's a very highly contested lane, so having more mana there, probably a good thing. Even if you're not planning on using it this turn, just setting it up for the future.
No thanks are required.
All right, now TenShi is in kind of an awkward spot because you might want to use your Spring the Trap here to soak if something dies, or you might want to save it and then replay it for the following turn. Enough magic doesn't really help you out. Stars Align doesn't get you anywhere. Savage Wolf, a bit clunky. If you pass, you're not in any better position for the following turn.
I mean, Naiman's hand is terrible, really. It's not doing anything. I mean, you have enough magic, which is, you know, sure. I mean, it's not really going to affect both players too much, I think, in this mirror. And Nasal Goo and Stonehall Elite aren't going to do too much either. The open combat slot is going to be into, you know, Centaur. That's very powerful. And Stonehall Elite will not be eating that for breakfast or lunch or dinner. So in this case, TenShi can stall this out, and now he makes a point where Naiman has to respect the Ancient Kill. He has to say, maybe I have to play 1 or even 2 heroes in this thing, because if my opponent goes all in, he gets the right cards, even if he doesn't have something like a Nevermore, he does have something like an Emissary, for example. So he draws an Emissary, and it's over all of a sudden. So this means that he has to split his resources, whereas lane 2 isn't really that scary just yet.
All right, so TenShi's going to have a Blink Dagger available, takes it.
There's the creep as well. No creeps for Naiman, so Naiman has to really respect this lane 1.
And the downside is that there's not a lot that you can do, at least with your current hand, to properly respect it. I mean, you've got a couple of blockers, or excuse me, a single blocker in the Stonehall Elite, and you theoretically have an out where you could use enough magic if you're afraid that they're going to keep playing more.
Now, if you respect it too much, then all of a sudden you could lose lane 3. So this is kind of the split where TenShi is forcing Naiman to make a very hard decision here. And even if Bristleback stops at this turn, if the lane 3 isn't taken down this turn, there's a stall between both boards. A Time and Triumph can be found from both players. Then that lane 1 is looking to go down next turn almost for sure. And there's a blink as well, so Bristleback can say, you know, I'm out of here. I'm just going to go for lane 3 instead. The third spring in the trap is not found. I believe there is one in the deck for TenShi.
All right, so TenShi is going to have to respond to that Spring the Trap. Spring the Trap is a great play from that Bristleback again, because you need the pressure and the presence in that hotly contested third lane.
We see a Mist. The Treant can play Mist in lane 2 if he wants to kind of threaten his own Ancient Kill turn after, but might just play it in lane 3 instead. But again, this is not a hand that looks to contest and finish a game out.
Well, with the abandonment of Bristleback, though, that drastically slowed the amount of damage done to that first tower. Mist in the middle could legitimately make that catch up, right? If you're talking about trying to outrace that first lane, or at least get close to where you're competing with it, Mist might make an awful lot of sense. Now
this might be a tie, Charmer, and I'm not liking this. This is going to be a tie. I can feel it already.
We have not had one yet. I suppose if we're going to have a tie, it should be between two decks running tie of Triumph.
8 seed damage goes down on lane 3, and that's just 8 more next turn if nothing can be done about it. And there isn't really a chance here. With Stonehall Elite as a blocker, there isn't a chance for TenShi to take this lane down either with the hand he has right now. So, yeah, this is going to be a tie, unfortunately, I believe. I mean, I'm pretty certain. Lane 1's not going to go down. The Ancient Kill won't be happening with the Bristle porting out and no other heroes joining him in that lane this turn, and lane 2 still too far off. Even with an Emissary draw, I think it won't be enough.
Yeah, it's certainly looking like it's going to go in that direction. I'm trying to see if there's anything that TenShi can do to get 6 more damage in. And unfortunately, because Naiman has the blocker in the Stonehall Elite, it is not likely. Even still, Bronze Legionnaire is 4, Savage Wolf is 3 more, so in theory it's there. Wow, I'm very surprised by that.
He's taking the tie. That's basically, he's just saying, you know, fine, I'll take it. We'll just play again and see who gets lucky next time. But the 2 creeps there, we see him again in lane 1, so maybe the play was to just go into the Ancient Kill. I mean, maybe that would have just lost you the game in lane 3, but...
Well, tied you the game. Oh. So... this one likely going to be a healthy scratch. Both players start with explosive hands, lots of big, flashy
plays.
plays.
There's a Vesture in hand for Naiman.
Wow.
And he is not playing a... I really would be surprised if he was playing a... I mean, there's no way. Yeah, he's not playing a Vesture. That's a Secret Shop Vesture, so... all of a sudden, this might not be a tie. Vesture stops...
all of a sudden.
Stops damage from every single source, which means that the Siege damage from Time and Triumph will not go through as easily. The tower is low, though. It's taking 22. It might just not be enough.
I've said this a few times today, but the Secret Shop is doing work today. There has been some very high impact
enough magic
purchases.
Will seal the deal here for the draw if Naiman wants it, but he has the Vesture. He has one blocker. And he knows if his Axe and Lycan don't die, he has the guaranteed lethal no matter what happens. So he has that safety at least to know that he has the draw guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't think that you play for the tie here. I think you play it out just to see if you can somehow squeak it with the Vesture, because like, what do you really fear here? You know, if you don't play enough magic, if somebody duels, like the Berserker's calling that Legion Commander's not going to do anything if they in theory had it. Oh well, never mind.
He takes the tie. He's not going to risk it, and.
Maybe he already did the math with the Vesture and said, I can't get there, let's just get out.
This is going to be a long one. I mean, we're going to be here for a while, I think. This is what I dreamt about last night. Well, it wasn't a dream, it was a nightmare. But red-green mirrors give you a lot of ties and a lot of just high-roll games where you draw that turn 2 Time of Triumph and you draw that turn 3, double Time of Triumph or double, big mana plays. And yeah, that was...
So I know that with this Conquest-style format, traditionally, when somebody wins a game, they can't bring the same deck back, and there's an opportunity for switching decks. Are we going to see that here? And the answer is no. Spoiler.
I believe if it's a draw, you have to play the same decks.
Oh, okay. Well,
we'll have to look at the official WePlay rulebook, but Rob gives me a thumbs up, so I'm going to go with what he says.
All right. Well, we're going to get another mirror. We saw one earlier. Here we have Bristle on Bristle, Lycan on Lycan, and Legion on Legion.
And the Legionnaires can curve, but the other Legionnaire will quickly correct that and just trade for the death instead.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of secret shops matter today. We're seeing a lot of mirrors matter. Wow, that is a big arrow in favor of TenShi.
Naiman, he waited to give TenShi a bit of a surprise there, his own Bronze Legionnaire instead, and it stops that arrow from happening.
Well, we needed to keep the mirror going, so Bronze Legionnaire's got to pair off as well.
We see already TenShi has Stars Align and Time of Triumph, so he's one card away from that combo happening again this game. We've seen it happen before. DPM had turn 2 Time of Triumph 2 games in a row.
So TenShi used Spot Weakness there to pick up the kill and cycle to find another Bronze Legionnaire. That could end up being very, very important. So
we're going to see the green hero played in a lane that is not lane 2 because you don't want to have, there's a chance you draw into, well, you're kind of in a pickle here because you can't play Salaminia's Favor from lane 1 into lane 2 because you don't have a red hero to accompany Lycan there. So it's a bit of an odd position for Naiman where he can't really, even if he draws the bonkers cards to get the combo off this turn, he can't really get it off. He'll have to wait one more turn instead and wait for Axe and Legion to come in.
Yeah, meanwhile, we see TenShi, in my opinion, rightfully playing the Treant in the first lane because if you draw a second Stars Align, you could just go back-to-back turn 2 Time of Triumphs, but does not find it.
We've been spared.
We've been spared.
Mist is there, though. Mist is a great early draw from Naiman. He has the ramp available to try and get that, play off next turn. If not, he has a Spring and Trap anyway, so it's still a fine, a decent play to play on turn 3. And we see some pretty decent mid-game cards for TenShi when you don't have that ramp, which are Stone Hall Elites, Bronze Legionnaires. This is not so great, but everything else is pretty good. You can't kill creeps here because Lycan's a green hero, but it's still an okay mid-game hand for TenShi.
Yeah, I really like, in terms of Naiman's options here, I really like trying to play that Mist into the second lane, maybe try to snowball it, but Naiman not agreeing with me, and that's fine. There's a reason that I'm here, and Naiman is competing.
Legion can be played in the middle here, but it would not get the trade kill on the opposite Treant because there isn't really a Blink Dagger or a weapon in hand for Naiman.
All right, Stone Hall Elite comes down, and because it's next to the Treant, has a whopping 4 armor. That is an armored up cheeseburger man.
Oh yeah. And the creep also makes it so that the Savage Wolf is pretty much,
and now the Mist comes down. All right.
And then we're going to see probably a Savage Wolf come down lane 2 just to get that extra value from the Mist.
Yep.
And it'll slow down the Salamania Favor, though, for the potential huge ramp into lane, or the next turn, rather. We could still see it, actually. If Naiman is a not greedy boy, doesn't play Savage Wolf early, instead plays a Favor to try and help out this lane as well with the red hero coming in. Could open up the window for Spring the Trap for sure, but maybe even a Time of Triumph or an Emissary.
I think I like the Wolf here just because while the Favor helps you snowball, you don't have Time of Triumph in hand, and the Favor by itself isn't enough to get you to even Spring the Trap the next turn. So you know, ramp is good, but you have to have stuff to play with it, right? So this wolf comes down, and it's going to get its own buff from its passive, and then it's also going to get the Mist of Avernus buff the following turn. I really like that play.
And we could see a Bronze Engineer instead of Stonehall Elite, but
I think if you're going to play one, you probably play the Stonehall just to saturate your mana. Saving the cheaper play is oftentimes better if you need to use it as a blocker or as a reactive tool. So,
and if you look at the board, you can't really trade with a creep in lane 2 because they'll be buffed with Mist of Avernus, so it's not going to be valuable there.
Right.
And in lane 1, there's open slots for creeps to go into anyway, so it's going to be hard to find an open creep to play at Stonehall Elite into. So yeah, heads up play by TenShi. A creep can spawn into that Stonehall Elite in lane 3 if he's lucky as well, so there's that chance.
And, you know, in all honesty, if it never eats a creep, but it's whacking a tower for 4 damage a turn, that's still a pretty good play.
There's a single creep going to lane 3, so we could see that happen. Stonehall Elite could get some food to eat.
And both players, yeah, have kind of some tricky decisions to make regarding the deploys.
Yeah, Axe has to try and stop that creep wave in lane 2 because they are just creeps, but with the Mist and the Savage Wolf, it can get out of hand very quickly with 4 creeps as well. So Axe going to go and try and trade with some creeps instead.
All right, so we're going to wait and see what TenShi picks up. Does not find a second Stars Align again, so Time of Triumph has to wait one more turn. But when we look at the heroes that will be coming back from the fountain this next turn, there's a chance that TenShi could score a 3-hero Time of Triumph, which would be pretty effective.
Now, there's a chance for Naiman to play Salamania's Favor into lane 2 and then blink the Axe to play Spring the Trap here as well and just almost guarantee this lane is taken over, basically. But then it stops the kill on Stonehall Elite, which is pretty massive in lane 1, and also leaves lane 1 very vulnerable this turn. He can Salamania's Favor lane 3 as well to play Spring the Trap with a Legion, but again, Salamania's Favor in lane 3 isn't optimal. You would normally want to have those ramp plays and the impactful plays in lane 1 instead.
Yeah, the third lane is kind of an interesting conundrum, in my opinion, for Naiman, because it's not really going your way. So you don't want to commit something like the Salamania's Favor over there, but your other plays are not that great there either. I mean, you have the Bronze Legionnaire to maybe slow things down, but outside of that, you don't have a lot of tools to really combat that.
You can also Salamania's Favor in this lane and forego the Spring the Trap and have the Bronze Legionnaire still available because you get that 2 mana boost, so you'll be back to 3 mana instead of down to 1. And that means that you can trade with the creep as well. So maybe that's the play that Naiman goes down and just plays into that possible draw of Time of Triumph next turn, which he'll be at 8 mana.
And the favor does go to the third lane, so I have to assume that they're trying to set up that Spring the Trap.
But again, it is a bit awkward. I mean, if your opponent Time of Triumph's next turn, he has the Stars Align and he has the Time of Triumph there, so it's a guarantee at this point. You don't have any kind of gust to stop that from happening. It means that you can win lane 3, or not even win. You can have a Spring the Trap on lane 3, sure, but it's going to be a 3-hero Time of Triumph with a Blink Dagger in lane 1. That's scary. Yeah, that's game-ending scary. That
is going to be very, very scary. And then on top of it, because of the way this game is kind of played out, 3 heroes with a Time of Triumph in the first lane is a lot of pressure, and then that third lane already almost halfway down, likely going to be below half after 4 damage threatening. I don't think that Spring the Trap is going to go in the same lane, though it might.
Oh, there's a chance. I mean,
yeah.
Could go into lane 2 as well for the missed value, but TenShi has done a pretty good job of stalling that lane out. It goes into, it's a good trade instead. These creepers do die, and both the Centaurs survive, so the value's there, playing these Centaurs here. But again, it's going to be very tricky because you have that Time of Triumph already guaranteed in hand. There's no high roll, no need to get lucky with the draws for TenShi next turn. And this is looking to be TenShi's game, to be honest. I mean, it could change with Naiman's draws next turn. But the Salamania in lane 3 isn't too impactful. It missed. It's down to only 2 units in that lane.
So TenShi could opt to still play a Stonehall Elite here. And unless there's an arrow, that would put 4 damage on the tower, getting it to exactly 20, exactly half health. That is the play. but arrow not necessarily going towards the tower here.
And now Naiman can also draw exactly Stars Align and Time of Triumph. And, with Mist, Celemani's favor, and those Centaurs down in lane 3, he would be in the driver's seat. But he has to draw exactly those cards. The impact those two draws have on this game is massive. You cannot understate it.
All right, and TenShi, very interestingly, is going to put the 2 heroes in the middle lane. I would have expected the first lane, but instead going for the middle lane, so I would assume that's where the Time of Triumph is going to be going. And Naiman going there as well. We are about to see some fireworks in that middle lane.
Well, if you're scared of the Mist being a problem later on, it just stops it right in its tracks. If you're able to Time of Triumph, clear that board with the cleave and just the extra attack damage as well, and your opponent can't find it, but this opens up the chance for Celemani's favor to be a draw from Treant into lane 2, and then the Time of Triumph is still there. You don't need exactly Stars Align, so TenShi giving Naiman a bit of an opening there. Now that Celemani's favor can also alter the course of this game significantly. We'll see what the draws are here. TenShi doesn't matter too much.
All right, so Naiman found neither.
But he finds the favor. He doesn't have the payoff, though. And I said TenShi doesn't matter too much, but when you draw a Time of Triumph and an Emissary, it starts mattering a bit more, because this lane, it's 7 mana now with the Roseleaf Druid surviving. Although, yeah, probably the... Well, there's a Fountain Flask, so the Treant will stay alive. Well, will it? Well, it will.
Yeah, well, because of the Stonehall Cloak, so...
But Roseleaf Druid dying is massive here. It seems like just a creep dying. Doesn't matter too much, but it sets this back 1 turn. Yeah, and stops the 8-mana play next turn instead.
This is a very important standard bearer there. Because, again, it clears that up, but it's also...
Yep, guarantees the kill on Treant. So.
Guaranteeing the kill there, even with the heal, because that it's so rare that you get double the value out of a standard bearer, right? It's uncommon that you have an open space across something like that, but... Blinking out.
And now this gives a chance for the Fountain Flask to come down.
Yeah, that opens things back up for TenShi. So, kind of looking ahead here, right? We're going to see, is this going to be a 4-hero Time of Triumph in the middle lane?
Or this could be a Treant going to lane 3 and giving up lane 1 altogether. You have a red and green hero there. If you get the right spot here against the Centaur instead of Legion, you can heal the other Legion and it's fine. Or just, I guess a 4-hero Time of Triumph is a bit, bit more tempting.
Well, I really like this because you have at least a Blink Dagger. I mean, granted, you just use the cooldown, right? But you have a Blink Dagger on at least one of the heroes, so you only have to likely find the source of mobility for like 1 more hero. In terms of like getting a time here and then repositioning them later. Also, you know that Naiman's really invested in this lane, right? The Mist came down early. They've been playing a bunch of heroes. Wow.
Yeah, and enough magic will do that. And we have, if Stars Align was played, enough magic would come down instantly. And it's like a gust. So in this case, Naiman survives for 1 more turn, dodges that Stars Align.
I'm not leaving the battlefield.
All right. TenShi says, okay, you used enough magic. Kind of ruined my fun. I'm going to do my best to do the same over here. Unfortunately, Naiman with these cheap plays can keep Legion Commander alive.
What are your orders, Commander?
And it's going to be a trade here onto Stonehall Elite and onto the Legion with a -1 armor.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, never mind. The Retaliate will be gone in this case. So unfortunate for Naiman, the Legion will survive. But now at this point, you have Stars Align and the Time of Triumph combo losing value. Every turn that passes that you're not playing this early on, it's going to lose that impact value that you can get from playing it very early, because all of a sudden you're at 4 mana, you're playing, your Savage Wolf, little nice dude, you're going to get growth over time against a Time of Triumph. That just wins the game. So every turn that passes that's you're not getting that combo off is going to punish TenShi more and more, and Naiman, with enough magic, was able to stall 1 more turn.
Now, the one thing that is still working in TenShi's favor, however, is that Naiman, after these draws, has not found finishers. TenShi has a lot of finishers. In fact, 3 Time of Triumphs and an Emissary.
There's no more enough magic. You can't stop it from happening in lane 2. And again, this is not Mono Blue. You don't have these cycle cantrip cards that can draw you more cards and Sanctum to refresh and keep on going. You have what you draw at the start of the round. If you draw Roseleaf Druids and you don't draw the payoff, well, you're in trouble.
All right, so the Axe blinks to the third lane, and this is now just a creep fest. And we come back to lane 2, and I have to assume we're going to see our first time of Triumph. Stars Align comes down.
Now, if you time a Triumph, you're still taking a ton of damage.
You take a lot of damage, but with the cleave, you're going to clean up a lot of the presence.
So when you have 4 more mana for another creep, and you're at 1 mana if you're TenShi, all of a sudden you're taking 21, and this lane's done. At least for Naiman, his heroes are dying, but he's not going to have to come back here anymore. He can say, you can have this lane, it's fine. You might see a Town Portal scroll from TenShi on the side, so that's the thing with Time of Triumph. It does a lot, but it doesn't block damage. If you're in a position where you're already taking so much because of that miss coming in early on, that stall from Naiman was enough with the state of the board to just get the lethal on this tower anyway. He can, TenShi can try and fight for a different lane now, but... And this miss is going to keep on going.
Yeah, the mist is going to keep on going, but Naiman, yeah, you've secured this lane, right? You have no reason to deploy heroes here anymore. That means that TenShi could, kind of in a backdoor fashion, also just take that lane, right? So that second lane, even though the tower fell, I think is still going to be one that's contested kind of by both sides.
There's a fantastic Viscous Nasal Goo combo into the Axe, with the Jasper Dagger is able to kill him. And now we see 8 mana naturally for all players. And TenShi has the better hand for this turn. Double Time of Triumph and Emissary in hand.
So far, we are going to see a couple of cards drawn by Naiman, and the third lane, third lane is kind of problematic for TenShi because it's already very, very low on health, and with only the Bristle going there. Now, granted, the tree does have a Blink Dagger, so you know, not a bad play to put it in this first lane in case you want to cross play Salamania's Favor someplace and then blink out. But
I just thought that the first game was a tie. I just remembered, and that just really brought me down. So we're going to hope this game doesn't end in a tie as well. I think it was looking to be very much in TenShi's favor, but all of a sudden, Naiman able to split. You know, getting this tower kill early was massive because you don't have to fight into these Time of Triumph heroes, and this tower's still not done. You have to still push through that siege damage turn by turn, only 8 damage.
So, TenShi dropping an Emissary here. I like this play because if you blink out, the Emissary can still continue to activate for all of the other turns, and this will actually allow TenShi to start pressuring in every lane. It also means that the tree will get modified before it blinks, and I am a fan. The blink comes down.
We see Berserker's Claw in hand, which could be massive for Naiman. He has the Bristleback at... it's not massive. There's a Time of Triumph Bristleback there waiting for you, so it's not going to do much, and still none of those powerful plays drawn by Naiman.
Beefy boy over there that says, I don't care how many calls you make, Mr. Berserker, I'm going to be around.
We could see a second Time of Triumph here.
And we do, and no reason not to because you have a third waiting.
Also kills the Savage Wolf, which is huge. He was already at an 11-9 unit, so getting bigger and bigger every moment.
Also added additional siege damage there as well, so you're looking at that lane is going to go down, just like I said. It was won, if you will, by Naiman, but TenShi continuing to pressure it, and not much that Naiman will be able to do to stop it.
And now enough magic, or probably Duel is the better play first. And you can play Savage Wolf as a blocker as well. You can even kill one of the Centaurs, trading off the Savage Wolf with it instead. So trying to stop some of this damage from coming. You're going to stop a lot of damage. Instead of being down to 5 HP, it'll be down to 8, or to 16 rather instead, blocking off a ton of that damage.
But the most important thing here is that, unless the Legion Commander takes a blink, both of these heroes are going to be dying, and then that means, you know, TenShi's completely in the driver's seat going into the next round. But
ooh, and the armor on Treant saves the Savage Wolf as well. That's massive, actually.
Potentially. Berserker's Call is still available. So,
I mean, you're not going to... You're pushing 8 damage for free, and this tower's down to 24. You mentioned it early on. A lot of damage was put down into this lane.
Oh, Berserker's Call is played. I'm not saying I agree with the play, but...
It was a play. The play existed.
You know, it's our job to point out potential lines of play.
But this is looking like a tie, so I don't like this line of play at all. This is 12 damage, 12 HP on each tower. I'm not liking the way this is going. We see 2 heroes coming down for Naiman as well, and finally the chance to maybe finally draw something useful.
Well, so here's the thing, right? Because TenShi has generated pressure in essentially all 3 lanes, right? That second lane going to fall. Like, let's be honest, with the siege damage there, like that's a thing that's going to happen. This Legion Commander is going in the first lane where the Emissary is, so...
and the change to the timers seems to have affected a few players. TenShi and Naiman both really roping out, playing a dangerous game. Magwai and Hoej were, in the end, unaffected. I said no one's going to lose the timeouts in this tournament. I may be wrong now. I'm trying to regret the decision, but we'll see if Axe does enough to defend this. Emissary comes down. We have Spring the Trap. Could come down as well to get the Emissary buffs on that as well. And there is no creep to block. It's just Axe and that creep that's here, so nothing can change in this. I mean, Legion will die with a Viscous Nasal Goo unless the Stonehall Cloak is played. But other than that, nothing can be stopped here, so...
Yeah, if TenShi can take this first lane, that's a win. That's not a tie.
It'll be 8. Yeah, it'll be exactly enough. It'll be 24 damage to deal with it here. 5 mana available though. So
and
now I don't like this. I don't like this concede. Because TenShi did not know for sure if there was a blocker from Naiman or not, and he could have potentially played the Spring the Trap into lane 3 instead to defend. Yeah. So that seemed to be a premature concede. In the end, I think maybe the tilt, not drawing Time of Triumph for so many turns in a row, could have affected him. It could be an emotional concede, which gets to some players, but I think there was still a chance for mind games from Naiman to defend there.
Or, hear me out, or you've already played through one game that was a tie, and then you've played through that. Maybe this was just a mercy concede by Naiman saying, you know what, I don't want this to go on any longer than it needs to. Let's get into the next game.
The people's man.
Yeah.
Thinking about the viewers.
Or just his own mental fatigue, right?
Yeah,
like the longer this series goes, the more it kind of drains you.
There was still a chance, though, for that to end up working out for Naiman in some way. There's a slim chance, but still a chance. People can misclick. People can, make misplays, mess up in a way. So I don't mind concede. I don't think it's a BM. I think concede is fine. You want to just, if you're an efficient human being, you want to get rid of the game quickly and move on to the next one.
But in a tournament, you play to your outs, and there were still outs there.
Yep.
Sometimes that out is your opponent misplaying, but it is still an out.
A meteor landing on your house, like Slacks mentioned.
Absolutely. Meteors are usually my go-to, but I'm glad to hear other people also believe in meteors.
So turn 1, not much has happened. Bronze Legionnaire was played in lane 3. All the heroes survived, so nothing too exciting here. And again, well, the hands are exciting, though. Stars Align and Time of Triumph in hand for Naiman, so he has a chance to draw into... And I like this. This makes it so that not only Stars Align opens up the chance to combo this turn, but also Salamania's Favor, because you can play the Lycan Salamania Favor to lane 3. It is lane 3, but a turn 2 Time of Triumph is a turn 2 Time of Triumph. It doesn't really matter too much what lane it's in.
Now, speaking of things to be excited about, on the other side, we have TenShi on that mono red list, running Tidehunter. We see a Kraken Shell already in hand.
Is that really exciting?
Listen, I was really excited every time Tidehunter showed up the first time that we did one of these WePlay events, and I'm hoping for a bit of a repeat. Tidehunter decided games the last time around. Yes, Jasper Daggers are a thing now, but you have to have them in hand, and, that's not always the case.
So Salamania's Favor not drawn, but the Mist is, and this very wide board is going to really help out here. There is a curve, so not getting the optimal value, and the Bronze Legionnaire can trade with the other Bronze Legionnaire, but still, an early Mist is an early Mist. It's not a Time of Triumph, but it's still a card that you definitely want to see earlier rather than later. And like you mentioned with Mono Red, I think Mono Red is going to find a hard time winning this matchup because It's just, it's a very same, similar principle, just slower. Because you don't have the ramp. You don't have the green to, help you out into, accelerating into that time of triumph earlier, or the spring the trap even. And you don't have the ancient kill potential with the emissary as well.
Now, you did mention that the arrow was here, but Naiman could opt just to take a duel. I mean, it would represent 5 more damage on the tower. Well, not anymore. So at this point, likely going to see Roseleaf Druid come down next to the Treant if I was picking a place, just because it guarantees damage on the tower and secures armor. And look, I almost sound like I know what I'm talking about. It's a rarity, though.
I see lane 3 very much in favor of Naiman. Even if this Bristleback dies, it trades, and it's still a 3-unit board that could find more creeps this turn with a mist down.
Yeah, with the mist over there, it's a slow but steady pace that Naiman is setting, and that Tidehunter isn't exactly going to make it go any slower. Tidehunter is going to go in that lane just because you need some presence there, and you're not really worried about colors because you're mono red. So
I like the Axe lane 1. There's a Blink Dagger in hand, which means that you can blink out of there if you find the combo pieces to get that time of triumph down in lane 3 anyway. But it also helps you, just keeps your options open. You can find something in favor, but Lycan is dead, so that combo isn't available anymore.
So we have TenShi opening up with a Stonehall Cloak. I like that play. Now makes a duel less attractive. Before, I mean, it wouldn't have killed it outright, but it would have, potentially threatened to kill it after the combat damage from the melee creep.
And again, I mean, this is just a great hand from TenShi, but going to be slow. You have to follow the actual rules of the game and get 1 mana per turn instead of 17. So the creep does die here. Standard Bear also widens the board, and that's going to be an ongoing effect until it dies. And at 6 health, it's pretty healthy. You can trade with a creep for 3 turns, which is pretty good. But lane 3 looking to be a bit abandoned. We talked about it being in favor of Naiman. With Tidehunter there to block damage every single turn is going to be a little bit slower, but I think still over time with that mist going down. There are no creeps, though, from Naiman to play with green, so it's not going to be fantastic, though.
All right, so we see a duel here. TenShi securing some additional gold, clearing out the Legion Commander. Lane 2 solidly in control by TenShi here.
Nothing to be played yet, though. At 5 mana, only Red Mist Pillager is really the big answer in red. That and Raise, I guess, but Raise isn't played very often.
Now, if you know that you're not going to play anything in this 3rd lane, you might consider playing Kraken Shell here just to take initiative and then pass it through. Because let's be honest, that 1 extra armor is probably more impactful on somebody like Beastmaster than it would be here on this Tidehunter.
There's a favor coming down, which opens up Time of Triumph next turn 100% guaranteed. So it's a bit slower than expected, but still, it's coming down earlier than TenShi's Time of Triumph is coming down, which might be, a game-changing play here. We see a Blink Dagger as well in hand for Naiman, which is kind of a great utility to have after Time of Triumph. And 5 gold opens up Jasper Daggers as well to be bought.
And so now, Naiman has everything. Everything
Yeah, he ignores lane 2. TenShi can have it. He's going to Time of Triumph lane 1, blink 1 hero to lane 2. The mist is still active there. You can even spring the trap in lane 3 as well. So,
I'm a little surprised if he locks that in.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I prefer this.
And that is the route. You already had a lot of pressure on that 3rd lane, so I don't think that you needed, even more. I would have liked to see the 3-hero Time of Triumph, but... Ooh.
Well, Star's line's still there, so...
There it is. There's Stars Align.
Nothing that TenShi can do about this. He stopped the first one. He can't stop the second. And the second favor is also in hand, so... That's a pretty big tell that Time and Triumph is coming down here. Or Emissary, I guess, but...
So, knowing that either Emissary or Time of Triumph is coming down, do you consider playing the Mercenary Exiles or the Blink Dagger to bail out? And the Blink Dagger ends up being the play.
Revenge will be swift.
And you have to think that this is going to represent Legion Commander going to that third lane. The second lane you have in hand already if you're TenShi, so...
And Ravage, one turn away. If it gets the right stuns, it can stop a lot of damage, especially if Time of Triumph is played next turn in this lane, for example, it would stop all that siege damage and could potentially just stall the game out for a whole turn, because if we see a Spring the Trap here, it's going to be a lot of damage coming into this tower. These heroes are going to survive because they're not being, Bristleback is still quite healthy, taking only 6 damage.
Stonehall doesn't care about
All right.
you.
I
You're
actually
just a
don't
spoke
mind that
on the
play.
wheel.
You kind of sacrifice the Mercenary Exiles, but it's going to trade with something that was about to do 8 damage to your tower, and you're going to blink out anyway. And there we have it.
Now, do we see a blink?
That is a good question. I'm not sure that you can really afford to blink here because...
You blink the Lycan into lane 2.
Time to hurt
Well,
some
With
people.
Cleave and with Time and Triumph, if he lands right in the middle, he can stall this out.
Well, could have, but unfortunately that Blink Dagger went down on Axe, and there are 2 duels in hand, so maybe
that's probably better. I was thinking about the Salamanian's favorite, but yeah, Axe is probably better.
Yeah.
You can duel both of these red heroes. Something like a Marifel Brawler will come down first, so still going to take some extra damage this turn, but with the Cleave and with, he's going to kill almost everything here. No initiative though, so the Beastmaster proc can come down first. Stonehall Cloak will do nothing at saving.
Wow, opting to not use Beastmaster first. So that's rather interesting. The only reason I think that might have been the choice is that position-wise, that Marifel Brawler is kind of locked in there, right? If your Beastmaster gets dueled, and here we see it, Brawler will collapse, but still be outside the range of, Berserker's Call shenanigans for future turns.
Now this is looking like Naiman taking full control here. That Cloak will do absolutely nothing. When the second duel comes down, you really have to feel bad if you're TenShi, but a lane that you were saying was completely won all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Naiman stops that altogether, kills the creep, kills both heroes, and only a Brawler left, and still that tower at 19 HP. Missed wing work here as well, Spring the Trap coming down as well, so... Naiman contesting every single lane now, has Legion coming in next turn, whereas TenShi has nothing coming in next turn, so... A big round of control from Naiman, and now the real damage comes in next turn.
I mean, this is what happens when you're allowed to just ignore the rules of the game, right? TenShi's over here trying to play fair, trying to go by 1 mana per turn, and Naiman just ignoring the rules, right? Taking Monopoly money from the bank.
And Ravage can come down in lane 3, but again, you're not only having to defend lane 3 now, you have to defend every single lane, so... And you have no heroes to help out in lane 2. If you have Salamanian's favor from lane 1 with Lycan into lane 2, you find something like a Time of Triumph onto Axe and Legion in lane 2, for example, it can get tricky.
Yeah, this red list has 2 Spring the Traps coming online, finally, by following the rules, 1 mana per turn. And those are the closest thing to, a defensive tool that I think this red list has, just because you can play some bodies, soak some damage, but I'm not sure it's going to end up being enough.
I'm not sure I like this too much. I mean, I think this tower, if you want to play it safe, you want to guarantee you take this tower down this turn, you don't have a Blink Dagger either, so...
All right,
I would have preferred to see Legion somewhere else. But
yeah, the Legion Commander not really helping to secure this that much faster.
Stars Align can be huge here if you find it with Potion of Knowledge.
Oh.
Well, I was going to curse, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay strong. But, oh my goodness, Naiman. He draws the exact cards he needs, and now this is going to be an Ancient Kill potential, something that Red-Green Ramp has that Mono Red does not. You don't have this Emissary in red. And all of a sudden now, TenShi is even more worried. He has to be careful with every single lane.
Yeah, TenShi will have 3 heroes to work with this following turn when the deploy phase occurs, but I have a feeling it might be a little late, too little too late in that regard.
We'll see if Tidehunter can do what he needs to do. He has one job in this world, just to get a good Ravage at this point in the game to stop the damage from coming in.
Well, I mean, if you're TenShi, you might actually consider saving it. And the reason I say that is, you know that Naiman has an item and only 2 cards left in hand. So, you know, how much damage can somebody do with only 2 cards? Now, TenShi does use it, but there might have been a consideration for saving it for just one more turn. Spring the Trap coming down.
Now, this lane is looking a little bit better for TenShi, but again, this is still at 36 HP, so not really a risk of, you know, dying next turn, for example, whereas lane 1 is looking scary with Emissary coming down in a completely bare lane here. Lane 2 is still alive, and this axe is still doing work with Time of Triumph, and if he finds the right cards, he can do, you know, we saw Duel killing 2 heroes in cold blood the other turn.
Yeah. So TenShi catches a little bit of a break. We have 2 melee creeps going into that first lane, which will, you know, help slow things down a little bit. And Beastmaster going there is a play that I like because the activation on Beastmaster is another body for trying to block and soak. Might open up things like Primal Roar as well, depending on positioning. So,
and we see TenShi being forced to contest or to defend every single lane because there's one that's going to get Ancient killed next turn if you don't go into it. It's not the Time of Triumph axe that can blink out to lane 3 anyway, and that's on the 13 HP. And there's no more Ravage to save you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
and all Beastmaster does is stall.
Unfortunately, Beastmaster did not line up across from heroes, so
there is a Primal Roar, and Time of Triumph is there. Finally available for TenShi, naturally, up to 8 mana.
Yeah, finally.
So this could do something here. I mean, maybe not enough, but it can do something. It's going to help stalling out. I think the win might just be on the Ancient Tower instead.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Naiman, you have to really like your chances at using this Emissary to secure an Ancient kill.
The jungle protects
Beastmaster, again, going to use the activation, trying to stall. We might see some additional creeps come down from Spring the Trap and or just playing a Stonehall Elite to stall a bit further.
Now, could this just be everyone blinking to lane 3 and going for the win there? There's a blink on Lycan and a blink on Axe.
I mean,
because the Emissary it used the active ability before playing something like a Roseleaf Druid, or 2 creeps rather, so that's interesting.
Spring the Trap coming down. Yeah, I actually think that we might just see that. We see the 1 blink going to lane 3. Spring the Trap in lane 2 is, you know, pressure.
13 HP, there's 2 heroes that have Time of Triumph, so Axe and Lycan will both be dealing, you know, 8 siege damage total. This is at 13 HP, the tower itself. There are quite a few blockers and Primal Roars in hand for TenShi, though, so, and Time of Triumph as well if he wants to go for a tie maybe over 2 turns, but...
Yeah, the problem is that the Primal Roar positioning isn't that great for TenShi. You know, when you're looking at that 3rd lane, you would really want to get one of your red heroes in a position to hit, you know, 2 or 3 of Naiman's heroes, and well...
And now we'll see if this initiative steal changes Naiman's plans, because all of a sudden maybe he was hoping to keep initiative, which is why he hasn't blinked this axe yet. Also because it's taking, you know, a lot of damage from all of these creeps, all the arrows helping out Naiman to help his tower survive for 1 more turn, but I would have probably liked to see the Ancient pressure more than what the line of play is going down now. I think it's risky because you have the chance for Primal Roar to really, and if the Primal Roar happens, it's getting, you know, the things are getting Primal Roar backwards, which means that you're losing the value of them still going to a different lane. Whereas if you're pushing for the Ancient kill, if a Primal Roar goes down to stop the Ancient kill, you're still going to be helping out. So those units or those heroes are going to go to lane 2 or lane 3, and you can still win there. So I'm not sure I prefer this line of play. We'll see if it pays off for Naiman, but...
There is also Berserker's Call, You know, we keep saying Primal Roar, but there is a chance that Berserker's Call is a play as well.
One of the few times that Tidehunter will be killing heroes with Berserker's Call, actually. Not very often.
Is enough magic an option? Well, not anymore.
So that was not ideal, I think. Maybe it was. This tower's still not down. There's no heroes coming in for TenShi next turn. And you have 2 Rose Leaf Druid as blockers if you want to kind of forego this lane now. Well, he's going to go for blocking some damage here instead.
Yeah, and I like this play. The ramp cards are dead cards, but blocking damage, making sure that nothing sneaks up on you. Because, you know, we've said it a few times today, right? Sometimes in Artifact you have to take advantage of windows of opportunity. And that 3rd lane is now going to be a window of opportunity for TenShi. There's only the Lycan that's located over there. Meanwhile, TenShi has 3 red heroes and a Time of Triumph, 2 Time of Triumphs, but a Time of Triumph available. So it's entirely possible that if TenShi manages to take that middle lane, they could surprise Naiman and steal it in the 3rd.
So Berserker's Call would have won the game for Naiman in this middle lane. 100%. Kills everything. Axe survives. Deals 21 damage. It's over. And saves the lane as well. But doesn't find it in this case. This lane is still under that Ancient Kill potential. Only Axe coming to save it this turn. And with this lane not going down, because you're taking only 4 damage, you have some blockers as well in the Savage Wolf and the Rose Leaf Druid.
Yeah, that arrow that is facing Axe was doing TenShi no favors. I mean, with the blockers, it kind of didn't matter, but nonetheless, it's got to be a little disheartening if you're TenShi.
That's more like it.
All right, and I think we're going to see this wrap up, or do you think we're still going to see a blink?
Yeah, this could be a blink from Axe to lane 1. You start aligning to Savage Wolf and block his Centaur, and you save this tower for this turn anyway. Or
going right.
All right.
Okay.
Now,
I'm with you, knowing that
I like the block here, just to guarantee this tower doesn't go down this turn, just in case something funky happens in lane 3.
Yeah, I like that block there, but I'm with you. I really would have liked to have seen the blink go to the 1st lane.
I mean, how do you stop this? I mean, you can Primal Roar, or enough magic, but it's still, or just win the game here rather. That's probably better. Because of the siege damage from Lycan and Axe, there was nothing that TenShi could do at this point. His hand just wasn't there, I suppose, and that's game. So
yeah, that's just me forgetting about Time of Triumph. That's all it is. Siege damage turns out is pretty good.
We're too obsessed with the ancient kills, I think. But
yeah,
TenShi, we've seen 2 games already, or we've seen 3 games rather, but the series is not over yet because the players did tie the very first game. So we're back. TenShi and Naiman playing once again. Naiman was able to take that win there and tie the series 1-1. And now it's TenShi, or Naiman rather, on red-black, and TenShi on mono-red once again.
Now, it is worth noting that the Naiman list here is a gold list, right? And we see that with the track and the payday in the opening hand for Naiman. You know, Naiman essentially brought 2 high roll decks, but might work out because we see track, we see payday, and we see duel and gank, all of the tools, if you will, that you traditionally need. A way to kill heroes, a way to capitalize on the gold.
And following a very basic, or you know, kind of the same formula as Mogwai, 2 Vestors and 1 Horn of the Alpha. And yeah, right away we see the track coming down on the Bristleback. Bristleback will not be dying this turn, but most of the time he will be dying next turn. He'll be down to 2 HP and 2 armor. Hipfire's not in hand though. Hipfire is the kind of the greatest answer to that.
Yeah, now with the gank in hand though, you don't even necessarily need to deploy Bounty Hunter to that middle lane, right? You could just instead opt to deploy it in the 1st lane, maybe take the gank over there. But Bristleback found armor, found a Phantom Assassin in the opening round, That's kind of like Bristleback's favorite thing to do in my mind, right? Because Phantom Assassin likes to get cocky. Says, hey, I got this high health total for a black hero, and I deal 10 damage, which means I kill almost everything except for Bristleback.
There's a chance that Hipfire is drawn, and Hipfire in that lane swings the game completely because you get to kill the Bristleback for free, basically. Keep initiative as well for lane 3 if it matters, and you get the gold as well. So it would be a huge card for Naiman to draw this turn. Doesn't have it in hand just yet. Gank is good, but then your bounty would also be dying, so not fantastic. Not the 2-for-1 you expect from Gank, which you sometimes find with Phantom Assassin, for example, not so much with bounty because of the 7 health.
Now, meanwhile, on TenShi's side of the board, TenShi's opting to... We saw a moment of hesitation there, but opting to put the Beastmaster in the 3rd lane, and I think that's probably correct. Beastmaster here would have just ended up in front of Bristleback.
No Hipfire for Naiman, so does not find that immediate and no lineup either with Bounty Hunter onto the Bristleback. He could gank, like you said, just trade there, 1-for-1.
It depends on how much you want to secure that gold. And there is a legitimate chance that... Oh!
Jasper Daggers.
Jasper Daggers.
Purge your opponent's effects from equipped hero. People think about stuns, but it also includes the track effect, the bounty modified effect, and initiative is in favor of TenShi, so we'll see how heads up he wants to go. There's no item in Naiman's hand to be able to equip the item onto the bounty hunter, like a cloak, for example, and then be able to trade with the Bristleback, but gank could still come down here.
Yeah, gank would be... again, I like the idea of ganking here because you secure 15 gold. You know that you already have the payday in hand. You're going to have 2 black heroes coming down next turn, so you have an opportunity to get even more gold. If one of your black heroes goes to the 3rd lane, then you payday, follow it up.
Axe has no armor, so something like a Phantom Assassin could kill it very easily, down to 8 HP.
Because... I mean, what else are you going to use this gank on? If you're not using it here, then you're just trying to... Wow. Okay.
I mean, you have 3 black heroes next turn, so you can play something like a gank, another kill spell somewhere else, like a Hipfire in lane 2, and still have the payday in lane 3. It's a little bit greedier. You're trying to find that optimal value from all your cards, but it's still a viable line of play for Naiman here. It's not incorrect to not gank there because it isn't, like I said, a 2-for-1 trade or a highly favorable trade for that bounty hunter because it would be dying anyway.
I think that I'm surprised that we didn't see the daggers though either, right? So we saw no gank and no daggers.
I'm saying it. Some players, they think about the stun, they think about purging, gust, and stuff like that. But some players just don't think about other effects that could be affecting your hero, like the bounty.
All right, we are going to see Tide Hunter going in that middle lane. It looks like.
Yeah, I like Phantom Assassin here. It gets the kill on Axe if they line up.
I also like it there because it's a great gank hero. You said it earlier, right? Phantom Assassin is like the hero that you want to use gank on. So doing it from that 1st lane means that you have opportunities.
Well, now it's almost guaranteeing the gank. I mean, at this point, because you have 2 black heroes in lane 2, which means you can't play something like a gank, a Hipfire if you draw, and then a payday. You have to play payday in lane 2 no matter what. Well, the gold was spent, actually, so never mind. Naiman just doesn't want to play the gold deck instead. No. Going to play just regular red-black. Going to play by the rules. No crazy ramping, so... I mean, he can still gank and then hit payday. It's still going to be 30-something gold, but lost some value there to buy a Town Portal Scroll.
Now, the question is, if you're not going to gank here, do you do something like develop Tyler Estate Sensor and start trying to snowball this lane? Right? Because that axe is looking like it's going to die. And yeah, it looks like Tyler Estate Sensor is the play.
That hurts.
Yeah, that was...
And 1 mana also makes it so you can't really play duel here. Bristleback duel into Axe would have been great as well. A clean kill here. And Phantom Assassin survives as well, and you still, your Bristleback does not die. Again, the 2-for-1 trades are really important here. So, because of this arrow, it means that Naiman can Town Portal Scroll, and the Phantom Assassin still get the trade here. So, it's an okay play from him. And again, we're not going to see a payday this turn. And gank isn't really a viable option either.
Yeah, Naiman wants to get the gold thing going, wants to get it online, but I think, you know, kind of going back, right? There was a window last turn to start it. Oh, well, we get the gank this time. Okay.
Right.
Just being patient, I guess. Waiting a turn. Making us look like liars.
And now Payday is, I mean, he could buy a Vesture now if he finds it. I think that would still be okay. He loses out on the Payday, but the Vesture's still, you know, guaranteed this turn. But I think if he waits for the Payday, he could buy a whole lot more than a Vesture in 2 turns.
Why? I mean, why would you do something reasonable like buy a Vesture when you can do something degenerate and buy half your item deck? You want to go for degenerate every time, right?
And the fact he hasn't drawn any cloaks or bought in any cloaks means that the ganks and duels aren't, you can't get that 2-for-1 value from them early on.
Yeah, I mean, Naiman, look, we've said it before. Naiman brought 2 decks that are not designed to play by the rules. So doing something reasonable like, you know, buying even a horn or something here with your 27 gold, why? Why when you could buy everything around later?
If he finds it right away in the shop, he's going to buy it. If he has to, you know, wade through some other item, I think he's not going to risk. He's going to try and go for that crazy Payday this turn possibly, and then just go from there. We'll see if he did end up buying or not. He's at the top, so we can't really see his shopping phase. We saw TenShi's more boring shopping phase instead, buying a Blink Dagger. But it looks like Naiman
bought a Stonehall Cloak.
So
okay.
He waited through one item. He saw it wasn't there. He's like, I'm gonna stop. Try and get this value from Payday instead. And the Hipfire finally comes online a bit too late. Would have been really valuable before. Also not going to kill a Legion. Even with a -1 armor, it'll only do 5 damage.
So the Stonehall Cloak, it's interesting that Naiman did purchase that, right? Do you think that Naiman was specifically hunting for Vesture? Because if Stonehall Cloak is the item you see in the item shop, you know that if you purchase that, you cannot buy Horn at that point, right? And if you're going to Payday this turn and we see it go off, it could have been, you know, essentially 10 more gold at your disposal. Do you think he was actually hunting for the Vesture there?
I mean, like we said, if you see the Vesture, you're going to buy it, right? It's still a very early Vesture, it's still worth it. But in this case, he bought 1 item. He was at the point where if he bought 1 more, he would be out of luck for the Vesture anyway, so he stopped buying and now still gets, you know, like you said, 10 gold less, but still a very good Payday, 46 gold to be spent next turn, and it's still looking good even without the gold. I mean, this lane 1 is completely won. He has Tyler State Sensor as well. Lane 2 is looking okay. Tidehunter a bit annoying here with his body, but it's not looking bad for him anyway, so I think Naiman can very much be in control in this game in the next few turns. That being said, there are 3 heroes coming in next turn. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, now TenShi does have 3 heroes being deployed, and it's going to be on a very key Primal Roar turn. So if Horn, and we have to assume it's going to show up, right? If Horn shows up, or even Vesture shows up, and Primal Roar gets some good positioning, right? You could send the Vesture to a different lane, and then, like, the rapid deployment doesn't matter if it's stranded. So
I talked before about the importance of, you know, identifying what some colors can and can't do. And we talked about coup, for example, in black being able to shut down the horn is equipped because you have to activate the horn. You can play a coup de grace, for example, and then all of a sudden that horn is out of play for 2 more turns. And the whole point about gold ramping is to get it as early as possible, like Time of Triumph, and get more impact early on. In the case of mono red, you can't really do that. You can Primal Roar the horn to a different row, but that horn's coming down no matter what. Enough magic can do it, I guess. It's the one tool, and it is in hand for TenShi, so that could be an answer. 52 gold in hand for Naiman.
For now.
He's gonna find a horn or a Vesture. That's mathematically, I think, guaranteed to find at least one of the 2, maybe both even. The math does check out.
Unless there's something really spicy in the secret shop. All day today we've been seeing some...
It does not get much spicier than Horn of the Alpha, though.
I don't know.
That's the you know, high-grade Tabasco level of spice.
Sure, but if Horn isn't what you see in your own shop, right? Like, let's say you buy 1 item and then you don't see the Horn, but you've got like a Nick Tasha's Guard or something over there in the secret shop.
You have 52 gold. What item are you buying that then you cannot buy another item after to look for it again?
Like your other small items in Vesture, right? So like if you go like Cloak, Vesture.
Ice Stung is a very high. We see a Vesture already. We see Jasper Daggers. He doesn't find the horn, but Vester's still a great
See?
item.
It's
still,
possible.
Vester's still, I mean, I said he was going to find one of the two, either Vester or Horn of the Alpha guaranteed. Chain Frost comes down. Axe no longer has armor. Bristleback. Well, not good enough. Axe survives. There was an attempt.
Yeah, it was a very good attempt. I was just about to praise it, saying this is a really good Chain Frost because with Axe having no armor, there's a chance that it could go your way. But unfortunately...
all that set up for nothing.
All of that set up for nothing.
Stonehawk Cloak will still protect this Bounty Hunter from dying this turn. There are a few weapons in hand.
I mean, there's a few, but...
not going to do much.
Not quite enough. They all do +2 damage, not +3. And... that's why Bounty Hunter is very, very popular. In the previous tournament, when we were talking about how in an aggressive list, Stan was still playing Bounty Hunter, even if there was no gold synergy, and a lot of that had to do with the statistics that Bounty Hunter provides, right? 7 health matters, and that 1 health point kind of showing off there. Bounty Hunter is just broken. According to Slacks, Bounty Hunter is one of the 2 best black heroes in the game and needs to be adjusted or nerfed or deleted.
I wouldn't trust what Slack says too much.
Why? Slacks is a pro. He's on this panel for a reason. He properly picked the first 2 matches. He has that amazing 90% statistic thing that he was quoting earlier.
We talked about decks high rolling. Casters and analysts can also high roll, and Slacks has been doing a lot of that today. High rolling the Gola Cola picks, which is a player that does not exist in the first place. So right away, he cannot be right. But we're going to see a coup missing in hand for Naiman because he can't take down the Ravage from the Tidehunter. He cannot be stopped. The health pool still at 18 health. Nothing has touched this Tidehunter for a few turns means that.
But there is a Jasper Daggers available to Naiman. So if Tidehunter tries to Ravage, there is an opening for an answer.
But there isn't much to be played in the hand for Naiman. TenShi is apparently giving up lane 1 altogether. He thinks this is not going to be working out for him. Wasn't doing much, just killing a creep. So going to go into lane 2 instead, kill this Lich or attempt to. The Vesture is there and will be probably going on the Lich.
I think Lich is a good target for the Vesture.
And Hipfire can't do much really. Going to kill a creep maybe. Again, Tyler's State could come down, but not hugely impactful plays for Naiman. Whereas TenShi, maybe not this turn. He does have the Primal Roar though, but maybe not this turn. But next turn he has 2 Time of Triumphs lined up already. So that's going to be the turning point for this mono red list to try and break through and find damage. We see the lane 1 very much in control for Naiman, but lane 2 and 3 still very healthy. And the cards really aren't there for Naiman to really capitalize.
Yeah, I mean, Naiman was trying to high roll, get things going a little bit earlier, did not, and now that we are approaching the natural late game, poor TenShi here, forced to play by the rules, will actually get to play some powerful cards. So the longer this goes, I actually think the more it might be favoring TenShi as a result. And
with the lanes the way they are right now, they're very wide for Naiman, and not much damage is going through the towers anyway. TenShi is playing on the defensive and not on the offensive. It means that Vesture just loses a ton of value, and we were joking before, but not finding Horn is actually massive for Naiman because he can continue to push this lead in lane 2, for example. And sure, you can save the Lich. That's fantastic, but you're taking no damage. The Vesture's not doing much other than that. Just it's a 3 armor, 19 gold item. I'm not sure that's exactly what I would call value. So
yeah, it is worth noting. We've talked about the difference between the gold generation decks and the traditional ramp decks, right? So not only do the gold generation decks have the additional variables, but they also have less win conditions overall. You're not running anything like the Oath, anything that's going to just pressure in your deck naturally. You kind of depend on Horn of the Alpha as your win condition. So if you don't find it, you're going to be punished, or at least be at a disadvantage, whereas those red-green ramp lists have 3 Time of Triumph, have the emissaries, so you just have more win conditions available.
See, not much happening in this lane. Ravage does not play this turn. There wasn't much of a...
No reason to.
Exactly.
It's wise to save it.
Not much of a threat, and you're going to go into the Time of Triumph turn. You don't know if Naiman has it or not, but he could have it, and again, Time of Triumph, there's few things that stop it, but the Ravage and the stun.
I like this Spring the Trap. I like it a lot. Argument could have been made that maybe you put it here just because that lane's being pressured as well, but understanding that you have to take 2 lanes, and that one has sufficient pressure. It's probably best to...
Ooh, double creep spawn as well. That's just looking quite good for TenShi here. Lane 1 is, at this point, you know, lost. But, ooh, 6 seconds on the timer for Naiman and 23 for TenShi. So, again, both players playing a dangerous game against this clock.
Now, because of the way Spectate works, Naiman's going to have a little bit more than 6, but I believe TenShi's locked in at that 22. I believe the way Spectator works, the one that you're actively spectating, you accurately see their time. And then, yeah, so we see Naiman does get some additional time, gets that 30 seconds back.
So in case 2 timer triumphs was not enough for TenShi, he finds the 3rd one. So maybe too much. Is there too much when you talk about time? I don't think there is really, but... And again, we see Naiman's hand not really finding that top end. Again, it's happened before to him. We saw that early concede, the second game of the series, which is the first win for TenShi because of that draw. And the same situation happening again. No, he has the blink on Bounty Hunter. Will be blinking to... Yeah, I think this is correct. Lane 3. I think lane 1 or lane 2 is looking a lot scarier with the Ravage still up and that much wider lane with the Spring the Trap played in that lane last turn. Primal Roar also has a fantastic, you know, it just guarantees the kill on this lane, but it's tricky because...
It's tricky because depending on how it resolves, you don't want one of those resources.
Whereas the stun on Ravage is, you know, guaranteed to stun both heroes. Jasper Dagger's is there, though. And TenShi sees the item, so you have to consider what's best here.
If
that's also
that's also a really good play. I was going to say if they play the Berserker's Call, you take this down. Now the problem is you'll get a redeploy with the Vesture, right? So you're still going to have to battle through a Vesture, but you save the Primal Roar, you save the Time of Triumphs. I think this is a perfectly acceptable 1 hero Time of Triumph.
Or even enough magic. I mean, Bounty Hunter's dying. You're not taking any damage. At this point, it looks fantastic, really. I mean, you could Time of Triumph, sure.
The reason I like time is you've got 3 of them, right? So you have them to spare, but you're going to be getting some siege damage in. The cleave means you're going to get rid of the creep here as well.
The hipfire is going to open up a lot of damage on Bounty Hunter straight to that tower. Again, Time of Triumph, it's fantastic, but you lose all that mana, so you can't answer to something like this, for example.
Well, there wasn't really an answer available. I mean,
magic.
Yeah, I mean, if you play enough magic earlier, sure, but once you decide I'm not playing my enough magic, then Time of Triumph ends up being the right play there.
And now, Naiman, 24 gold, cannot find the horn.
Cannot find the horn.
But can find a Blink Dagger onto the Bristleback. We could see a 4-hero deployment into lane 3 once those blinks and blunks are finished. And that means, and the Vesture as well.
Meanwhile, TenShi also has a Blink Dagger already on the Bristle that's in the middle lane, has a Blink Dagger in hand.
You'd have to find the Time of Triumph, though, Naiman. And this could be another early concede if he gets a little bit too tilted, if he doesn't find it. So
we're going to see the draws.
A Spring the Trap even would be fantastic. Oh, no.
And
more mid-range.
More mid-range.
And this is Naiman. We can't see his webcam, but I can guarantee you he is not happy.
The thing about high roll decks is they don't always roll high.
2 Time of Triumphs, you can play 1 in this lane, you can blink out 2 of your heroes.
Yeah, we might see another snap concede here in a little bit, because this is going to be a blink, and then potentially even a Town Portal scroll as well, because there's no reason to stay in this lane, even with that Legion Commander.
It's going to be 12 siege damage coming through. Well, actually more than that, because the second time, or the 3rd Time of Triumph. So yeah, it's over. I mean, there's nothing that
there is the Town Portal
can do
scroll
here. The gank obviously will not do anything against these extremely buffed heroes. Ravage even is there as well. So
theoretically, right now the Vesture.
Well, the Vesture actually, yeah, the Vesture's
is keeping Naiman alive. However,
I believe because the second Time of Triumph applies as a separate source of siege damage, it's still going to block off 3 from each of those sieges. So you're really only going to have like maybe 10 damage of siege instead.
Yes. So when you have a second Time of Triumph, it's 4 siege and then 4 siege and not 8.
And unfortunately, there's no real chance for Primal Roar to get that Lycan, or that Lich, rather, out of this lane. So I take it back. The game's not over yet. Vesture is...
Someone's not walking away from this.
All right. Now, it is worth noting, however, that the piercing damage will go through the armor on a tower for the Vesture, right? So, not mattering right now because Lich is in front of this Bristleback, but it's a...
That will do it, though.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That'll do it.
That'll do it.
The blue coin is there, and this is finally TenShi taking the series 4 games in because of that draw. And Naiman, he is mad. Again, 3 turns in a row at the very end, not finding the top decks he needed in Time of Triumph, instead found the Stonehaul Elite and another gank, I think it was. So just not enough of an impactful play at the end there, and TenShi takes it. The kind of surprise player comes from the open qualifiers. Naiman was the top 16 player in the last WePlay event.
TenShi is like the definition of a surprise player because we didn't even know it was going to be named TenShi going into this.